Welcome to CivilNet. I have three very special guests in our studio here in Yerevan. Gary Schwartz, Serge Besset, and Mark Shapiro. Gentlemen, welcome to CivilNet.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And I'm sure our guests are wondering who you are and what you're doing here in Armenia. You are here taking part in the Reanimania International Animation Film Festival. Quite a mouthful to say. You are, Gary and Mark, both of you are animators, illustrators, filmmakers, Academy Award nominated, I would say, to add to that. And Serge, you are a music composer from France, also Oscar-nominated music composer. So, Gary, I want to start with you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, you were part of the jury for the film festival.
Yes.
Aside from the fact that the importance of these kinds of festivals that take place around the world to bring animation to a wider audience, to perhaps encourage filmmakers to keep making animated films, this is your first time in Armenia? First time in the region?
First time, month. Here for a full month.
You're here for a full month. Okay, so let's talk about the festival first, and then we'll talk about your impressions later.
Wow, where does one begin on Reanimania International Animation Festival? This has been a blast. So much fun. For me personally, it's actually more of a schmooze fest. There's people I see from all over the world, we see over and over again. So it's the community comes back together again, we get together. One more time to express our love for magic and the fourth dimension.
Serge, when I was reading about your studio that you co-founded called Folimage in Paris, and you were calling it...
No, it's not in Paris.
Where?
It's in Valence.
In Valence.
Valence is a great city with 15% of Armenian people.
There you go. We're everywhere, Armenians.
Yes, 15%.
15. That's quite a percentage. Well, when I was reading your sort of description of your studio, I really wanted to be there. Crayons and plasticine characters and the whole, I understood the whole sort of process of animation just through that description. But you are a composer. You've composed for short animated films and also for feature films as well. And you've been nominated for Oscars. And you were presenting your films. Well, why don't you tell us what you were doing here for Reanimania? What was Folimage doing here for the festival?
Yes, it's maybe the biggest studio in Europe, Folimage, with 200 animators. It's big. It's a big company. It's a great company, amazing, very good place. And you
were showing your films here for the festival. Some of Folimage's productions.
Yes, 3 long movies. Cat in Paris, Miel Migou, and Running Cat and Frog.
And were there a lot of people who came out to see the films? That's also something that was interesting for me. How was the audience? Were they coming out and participating in the film?
Yes, for the Running Cat and Frog, I remember I used duduk instruments.
Yeah, we love the duduk.
Yes. I don't remember it was a duduk. And yes, a good audience, very smiley. And,
smiling good.
Intelligent.
Mark, when I was reading about, you're also a jury member for the festival. You come from a different sort of aspect, marketing and communications, and you're the head of marketing of Laika Animation Studio. And again, first time in Armenia, obviously not the first time taking part in these kinds of festivals. How could you rank, or maybe that's not a fair question, but how was the festival in terms of organization and the sort of variety of films, the kinds of people that came together?
It's really been a great festival. As Gary mentioned, it's a coming together of a lot of people from around the world, from the Annecy Festival, Ottawa Festival, Hiroshima, and Armenia. It's nice to come here because it's the first time I know for us to come here. And the exciting part of it is we come here and experience the same sort of groundbreaking animation, and we get to see new programs. And I've seen some Armenian films, and I've seen films that I hadn't seen before, even some features, and from all over the world, not just Armenia. And it's nice to be in this environment. Gary mentioned it. We all love animation, And animation is a very complicated term because it's stop motion animation, it's drawn.
Right, it's just not what we would think of Tom and Jerry. Excuse me for the
yeah, it's very different,
and
but it's almost like it's an international forum where different countries are expressing what's important to them. There's great films, you know, that you never see anywhere else in the world, and it's exciting to see it on the big screen. I know that's a big part of a festival when you get to see. You can these days everybody watches movies on, you know, small
devices. Right, yeah.
You need to be in a theater to experience it with other animation lovers, and it's a great experience to be sort of together in that environment.
Gary, outside of it being entertaining for us as viewers, oftentimes animation is used for socially relevant sort of issues. Is that part of the process, or do you not even think about that? The creative process, do you have that sort of subconsciously in the back of your mind?
You probably asked that question because you already knew that that's the kind of work that I do. I teach animation workshops all over the world. I teach in prisons, psychiatric hospitals. I teach groups that are to the deaf, physical, mental, emotionally handicapped. So I do it within all realms. Everything from birth to the other end, in all types of populations that I can find. I started programs in Alaska, Hawaii, East Coast, California, Texas, doing programming in France, in Spain, in Ireland, UK. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, we created a short 9-minute film made by children with physical, mental, and emotional disabilities to actually create the animation for the Paralympics. And that was very successful. So I feel it's very, very important to spread the word and involve the whole community of the world in actually being actively involved in making animation.
Right, and because, again, it's not only for children, animation is for people of all ages, of all social sort of backgrounds and nationalities, because that's what art is, right? It doesn't recognize borders, hopefully. Serge, it's interesting, you are a music composer. How did you fall into animation? Why animation for you?
It's difficult because you must synchronize every day screen with music. Every frame, it's a marriage between both. It's a completely different feature on normal movie. Because,
it's more challenging, I would imagine.
Yes, it's not the same work. In normal movie, the composer has 3 months to compose the music at the end. And me, I accompanied every time the directors during for 2 years.
I want to see if we can talk about the sort of the marketing and branding aspect of animation. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you could.
I think it's really important when marketing films that you show a little piece of your project within your marketing. So if your film is, if it's a scary movie, maybe there's a way that you entice your audience with sort of a campaign that evokes sort of horror or something. Or if you're doing something light and fun, you could do it that way. And I think it's really important when you're telling a story with animation, there's a reason why you're animating your story. You could choose any format. You could do live action, you could do narrative, you can do a documentary. But when you do animation, you have a certain freedom that you can work with your project, and the marketing should follow that. I think the marketing should be married to that. So there's a nice alignment, and you connect really well with your consumer.
Very good. And I'd really love to hear your impressions about Armenia and Yerevan. You've had a chance to be here now for a number of days and interact.
For a month now.
For a month now. And?
I wander through the streets of Yerevan, and every day I have an adventure, or 2 or 3. I've been all over the place. There are so many things about Yerevan that feel like where I'm coming from in Detroit, a place that is actually in a state of reinventing itself, as in many places around the world. we have to be reinventing ourselves kind of continuously. And in the 21st century, it's even more so. No better way to do it than with animation.
I can see that you have such a passion for it, all of you. And Serge, you know, France, there's a very, very large Armenian community in France, over 800,000 Armenian, 15% of Alans.
Yes, it's my home.
It's your home.
It's my home, the same face.
Yeah.
It's
And,
really
and
my
what were
home.
your impressions here in Yerevan, or when you met with some of the, I'm assuming you met with local animators and music composers. Did you have a chance to interact with local?
No.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. No. Maybe
Okay.
the first time.
And then for next time, for
Next
sure.
time, sorry.
Yeah. And Mark, again, I'd just like to hear if you could. I mean, it's very interesting, you know, because they say that, you know, in the Soviet era, there was sort of a culture of animation film in Armenia. And then with the breakup of the Soviet Union, and as you know, as Gary was saying, we're in this process of reinventing ourselves. Did you have a chance to meet with any of those animators or filmmakers?
I've had a chance to do that, but more even just talking to people. You mentioned it's a fascinating country. It's a fascinating city to visit for an American because it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. And traveling, I travel a lot of places, and I often will compare that place. Well, what does this remind me of? It's a new environment. It's impossible to not see the influence of the Soviet Union, of Russia, maybe of Armenia itself, asserting its independence, and the location of this country. I was just thinking it's in the heart of everything. It's in the middle of everything, which is a blessing and a curse. And so it's a remarkable. I echo what you say. When I walk the streets, walk around here, I've really. They've asked me, do you want to take a taxi, or I want to walk and see things.
It's a walking city.
The neighborhoods are amazing, and you see things around every corner, and you really feel like you're someplace. Yeah. It feels like it's happening, and you can just see, you can feel the energy.
Yeah, it's about feeling the energy.
Yes.
We're not even speaking the same language, and I'm meeting all kinds of people, but somehow we're connecting, wandering around. The time I'm here, I was so impressed with the festival when they invited me to be involved that I said, I would like to come here and have local youth actually create a trailer for the festival. And we pulled it off and they screened it, and it's been fantastic. They're sponges and they can't wait to be creative.
Yeah. Sponges waiting for creativity. Very good. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time from the festival to come and talk to us. The best of luck.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again next year for the festival.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. I'd like to remind our viewers that my guests were Gary Schwartz, Serge Besset, and Mark Shapiro. Stay with CivilNet.